Every day we get a press release that says something is game changing, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone is entitled to extend the hyperbole for their marketing push. But how often is it actually true? And what is actually game changing? We could probably talk about the invention of MIDI as being game changing. Certainly the invention of the synth in the first place. Maybe the invention of aftertouch or poly aftertouch. It's subjective and doesn't really matter anyway. But what we like to see is landmarks in musical production. And certainly the Osmose by Express V behind me is one of the more interesting instruments we've come across in a long time. We've been very patient waiting to get a unit, and there's a good chance you've already seen what it's capable of. All the physical gestures that it's well known for, the performance control, all the expression. It's pretty amazing. So we've been very keen to get our hands on it and see what it can do, and to see just how it can be applied in the context of a track. So in this video, we're going to show you through some of these physical gestures as well. There's an online review if you want to read that on Attack, and then we're going to put some of them to test in a track and see how it sounds. So let's start with the keyboard and the physical gestures. This is where the instrument really shines and what makes it so special. So it looks normal at first, but it's really not. And even the most advanced pianists may have trouble understanding the depth of control under the fingertips. It's something more akin to a guitar or violin or any string instrument in expression, and it's under all 10 fingers. So if you imagine yourself gripping a chord on the guitar and grabbing all the strings at once and bending them, it's a bit more similar to that. And it does this with the side by side, or some people are calling it wriggle or wiggle. Whatever you call it, the keys move left and right. So if you were to press a key and you wanted to do pitch bend, you go push to the left, down, and you go to the right, it goes up. And look, if you wobble, you get vibrato, so and you can go crazy with it. It sounds mad. I've never seen a keyboard like this, and it kind of sounds something like Steve Vai or Inge Malmsteen might play, you know, when they're shredding on the guitars. And it's just an insane feeling to be able to move the keys around like you would a stringed instrument. Not to mention, it's a lot of fun. So if something in context, let's play it. Now, as you can see, that all sounds a bit Muzak. It's a bit lift music and everything. But in the right hands of a proper pianist, say Corey Henry or Cenk Eason, it's going to be pretty cool. Pressure on the keyboard also has a very interesting side to it. The heavier you press the key, the more timbre variation or intensity of volume. And this sounds particularly good on percussive sounds. So if you press it really softly on this percussive woody box sound, but then press really hard, it's very, very responsive to how you play. And also what I like about this is you get this sort of reverse pressure as well. So you can hold it down, put it off, you get a scrape. You can use that in a song. You could do two at the same time. You can do three at the same time. Hold this one down. It's actually worth mentioning while we're talking about pressure about the aftertouch as well. So when you hit the pressure, if you want to go down to the full release of the pressure, it's about the same as you would expect on a typical synth or MIDI keyboard. But the aftertouch is about another 1.5 centimeters on from that. So you go there and then you press down. And in this case, you got a volume swell. But different sounds and different things. But that aftertouch is so deep and much deeper than normal keyboards that it can just take some getting used to. But I mean, if you were to hear what that sounds like on, this opens up the filter. So to that end, just that having that depth in the key bed can take quite a lot of getting used to. And I think it probably takes more getting used to if you are a very, very good pianist, because just having this level of control under your fingers is going to be something very different to what you're used to. And actually, that's what makes it so good for a new keyboard player or just someone who's not that competent on the keys. It gives you the ability to do sounds that you just wouldn't be able to do normally, and there's a lot more flexibility. And it's worth mentioning, you can turn those settings off, like the pressure and the pitch bend and things like that. But from my mind, you wouldn't want to turn it off, because that's just reducing all the fun. You may want to reduce it so it's not so sensitive, so you can get a better performance. For example, if you're trying to play, you can inadvertently bend and wobble the notes, and you may not want that. But then, yeah, it's all down to personal taste, but it gives you those settings. Glides are also super cool and unique to the Osmose. With the glides, you use two fingers, and the pressure of the second finger affects the speed of the glide. So let's put it into context. If I have an A and I want to glide up to the E, the faster I push down on the E, the quicker the bend. So that's fast. If I do it slow, and it also works in reverse as well. Again, you can change those settings as well, but that also can take some getting used to. And what you can go one step further as well. So I've got a different setting here where the range of the glide is only over an octave. So anything beyond that, it won't work. But it means that you can actually then do polyphonic glides, like. You could do whole chords if you could find a nice way of doing it with your hands. I tried doing. Let's do this. That's pretty cool, and I've not seen that, and it just opens up so many possibilities, certainly for sound design, but of course mostly in my mind for performance. I believe this is a real strong performance keyboard, and you're likely to see it on stages plenty going forward. So that's the main crunch of why this keyboard is so special. That's what everyone's talking about. It looks normal, it really isn't, and it's definitely a big development in expressive performance control. And in fact, while we're talking about it and just the look and feel of it, I have to say it looks and feels very expensive and very classy. The key bed is very nice to play. I love this matte stuff that's at the top here. I love the way the modulation is at an angle over here. It just feels like a more ergonomic way of performing rather than having your hand in that position. If you're playing live, it's just there. It's got no modulation set on that one, but you see what I mean. The rotary knobs, they are, as a lot of people said, a tiny bit plastic, but for the price, there's always going to be a compromise somewhere along the line, and it's something we can certainly live with given the extensive forward movements with everything else, no pun intended. And I absolutely love this volume switch control at the front. It's great for performance live. You press it in and it will lock in and it springs back out, so it's like a spring lock mechanism. I would urge you to go and watch other videos that go a bit deeper on the physical gestures, but for now we're going to move on to some of the settings that we also like, that some of the neat features for performance. Okay, so now that we've seen all the physical gestures, we're going to try and put it into context by making a quick track with it. And we're going to make something a little bit inspired by Bias by Floating Points, which has a lot of feel, a lot of modulation. And it's when I heard it for the first time, when I was making this video, I thought to myself, this keyboard would lend itself very well to that sort of thing. We're going to make a bass line. We're going to make an arpeggiated sound to have a look at the arpeggiator. And we're going to make a lead, maybe put some SFX in. And we're going to just try and show a few things. So let's start with the bass line. So you want to go over to the presets, hit the presets button. And we're going to use bass. And we're going to use analog. And let's see, we liked this Fat Model D. Sounds like this. It's got some nice modulation. And you can change the filter with the modulation panel here. But I preferred it quite down. And the other thing is we're going to go to the sensitivity. We're going to change the bending. Instead of one semitone, we're going to increase it to a octave. so that when you bend, it goes up the octave, and we're going to change the sensitivity down to low, because then we don't inadvertently do it. We really mean, when we want it, we really have to mean it. So you kind of got a bit of pressure in there. And then with the aftertouch, we're just going to take it from medium, which is the default setting, up to high. And that changes the way it feels to play underneath. To my feeling anyway, it feels like I have more control over the aftertouch. And you can get that nice kind of wobble. All right, so let's see how we do. Let's make a recording. Okay, some bits were a bit funny, some bits weren't so good, but just like playing any instrument, you can never expect to get it bang on, unless you're a very, very good pianist. And to our ears, that sounds pretty good. So let's just hit save. Let's just try and find a good bit of it. Okay, this bit sounds pretty decent here. And it's here. That sounds better than the second part of that bit. So let's hear something like this. Okay. That works for the time being. I might just see how that goes over there as well. And we can have a little bit of an outro as well. Actually, my mistake. Let's just do this, sorry. And see how that goes. Okay, so that's the bass line. You can hear how you can definitely do really good modulation. And you can, of course, record that in at the same time if you want. But I prefer to do it with my finger because it's under the aftertouch. So you can do, or you can do. That's what makes this keyboard so cool. So there's our bass line. Let's move on to the next sound. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add in is a flute sound. The Osmose has so many good flute sounds because it's very, very good at acoustic modelling as well, as you might expect. Some of these sounds are great with so much expression underneath them. But we don't want to just settle on a flute sound, however nice that sounds. We want to use some of the other settings, in particular arpeggiator. If you just click playing and go to arpeggiator, and we really like this converge setting. Now we also want to add in an EQ on here, just have a bit of further control. We've obviously been through this already just to get an idea of what we're going to talk about, but I feel it sounds better to get into the mix. Okay, so on this arpeggiator, on the converge setting, when you have the aftertouch, it goes up the octave. Really, really cool. And it's also got this, really nice ratchet setting, which is great for breakdowns. Like, so I really, really like that for breakdowns. And on the global effects, we're going to add in a tiny bit more reverb. And on the analog echo, it's going to bring the noise down, a bit more mix. So this was a flute sound. It's now got this converge arpeggiator setting, and we've got some analog echo and a bit of reverb. Let's see how it sounds if we record something in. A bit of aftertouch. Add in another note. Do aftertouch on the little one. So this one's going up the octave, this one isn't. Pull that back. Put another note in. Move the ratchet up. And now let's change the division. Let's go back to this global, go to our analog echo, and let's push the feedback. Feedback, reduce the feedback. Not too bad. Now the arpeggiator is really cool. If I was just to go back here for a second, it's got loads of different settings in here. We're on the converge, but I'll show you what chords sound like. The one we really like is lateral rhyme and vertical times. This one's called the light harp drum. Very Vangelis, that sound. In fact, why don't we try and record that in and see if we can layer it a little bit. Let's just take this EQ off a little. We might want to see what that sounds like on a slightly different. That's on 30 seconds. Again, with the aftertouch, it's got an octave setting. Okay, let's delete that and see how it sounds. We're just going to hit record and go for it. Not sure. Maybe up, down the octave. Not sure that's really working, but you know, it's all about experimentation. But generally, the arpeggiator on this thing is very cool. Let's move on to our next sound. Okay, the next sound we're going to add in is a lead sound, and we really like this S and DAR sound. Now, this is the sound that made me think, wow, this has got a real floating points bias feel about it. So that's kind of where I went with making this tune, in that sort of direction. But we're going to increase the reverb mix a lot. So let's pump that up. Ooh, this one. And we can also, when we're recording, go to pretty crazy pitch bend. And it changes. Maybe a bit too high. And we also want to just change the cutoff a little bit. Alright, let's see how it sounds in the context of our song. In release, you can hear the pitch bend. Alright, some pretty nice moments in there. One thing it does when you're flicking through effects, it can drop out, which it did, and you can see it here on the track. So it might need some nifty editing before we kickstart. I must say that the flute and the bass line, before I recorded this lead, I already edited them in to make them just sound a bit tighter, because the recordings weren't perfect. But, oh, let's go back to where the volume isn't automated off. On that recording there were some pretty cool moments that just came from the jamming of it. And yeah, let's hear it back. That bit's wicked. Take it out here. Not too bad at all. I mean, it's a really, really nice sounding lead synth, and just having all that expression underneath you, as long as you kind of get familiar with it firsthand, you can, you don't have to be amazing to make something sound really, really nice. And it's just so much fun having all that modulation under your fingers, so you can give a performance without having to use lots of mouse control afterwards. And once you've recorded it, you can of course go in there and edit it and make something, take it to that next level. But as a first performance, it just puts so much sound, modulation, and performance expressive control under your fingers that you can just get advanced and quicker than you might normally would with other instruments. We're now going to move on to making a riser using the press glide, and we're going to use it to get into the intro and from the intro into the drop. Okay, so we've got the track as it is, and I've done some editing to the other bits as well, just to try and make it sound a bit better. We're going to make a riser, and we're going to use the press glide to do it. So I really like this sound. That's one of the lead sounds. It's called Insert Coins, and it sounds like this. And if you use the aftertouch, but also it's got a really light, quite a dainty sort of flute sound as well if you play it well. And as I said, we're going to use this press glide. But one thing I noticed is our song is in D flat minor, and we're going to want to do a press glide from this D flat to that one. which is possible. But what I found is that when I'm using the black notes, I find it really, really hard to get an equal pressure setting on the two black notes. For some reason, whatever reason that is, I'd probably have to ask them. I can't seem to get it consistent with the two, and I find it easier on the white notes. So there's a couple of things I was going to do. Is I was going to record it on the white notes and transpose it down one semitone, because I also can't find a way to transpose the keyboard a semitone like you would on a MIDI keyboard in case you wanted to play without hitting black notes or something. So a bit of a limitation. There's possibly a workaround, but the workaround I have is I'll record it in D, so it will sound pretty atonal, and then we transpose it down. But to set that up, we have to choose the sound we want. Then we go to the plane, and you'll see that in the press glide options, it's only set to semitone, which basically means that if we do C, it will only glide up to C sharp. If I do C to E, see the difference? So what we have to do is change that, like we said earlier, and we're going to change it to the full keyboard. You have 3 octaves, 2 octaves, you have lots of different options. But we can just change it to the full keyboard so that if we did do it in D, now you can layer these up to make really interesting risers, which aren't particularly on the grid. Make your music just a little bit more live, and it does have a whole liveness about it. So let's record that in. As I said, we're going to be recording in D minor, so it's going to sound pretty bad. It may, even if it was in tune, it may sound bad to you, but just trying to show you a couple of things here. Let's go for it. It's going to be really quiet now. We'll show you on solo afterwards. So I'm going to press down on this one on the right and start going up. Trying to get the lift up on my left hand, push down on my right hand. Nearly at full, now at full. Now after touch. And we come back down. Okay, so let's hear that in solo. I'm going to pitch it down. Let's hear it with just the music. There's the aftertouch kicking in. So I'll probably fade it out there when I'm editing the track. The next thing I would probably do is maybe keep the same sound, but tweak some of the settings slightly. So make the waveform. Just see what else we have here. Modulation. You don't have a great deal of options with the onboard macros. If you really want to get into it, you have to use the Egan matrix, and we go into the Egan matrix on the tax if you want to read all about that. But for the purposes of this video, it's such a comprehensive, such a huge amount of synth work and synth design and sound design stuff that it's slightly beyond us at this point. So let's put a okay, so, and if you want, you can change the sensitivity settings as well. So we could actually put like a more of a pitch bend in here, so it goes up 24. So you go higher with it and then change the sensitivity, so we find it a little bit easier to play. Same with the pressure. Let's change the pressure. Same with the aftertouch. Okay, so now we have a sound that's similar, but just slightly tweaked. And we're going to try and layer that riser. And again, it'll be otonal until we pitch it down. And we might even go like that. Okay, let's go for it. Pushing down on the right hand. Pitch bend. Pitch bend. Pitch bend down. Okay, some pretty horrible moments there, but you can see what we're trying to do. Let's pitch this down on semitone. Let's hear it together. Maybe pan that left, pan that right. And then what we'll do is let's group them together and then try and mix them into the song a bit. Just a tiny bit of volume automation. And I think maybe we can also add in a particular favorite of mine at the moment. Let's put in transit. Let's choose a preset, like a riser. I always think this one's a little bit heavy on the cutoff and a little bit heavy on the mix. Let's pull that down and just push them the main up. And let's just see how that sounds. Nice, not too bad. Maybe come in a bit slower. Ooh. Let's get this right on the drop. So there you can see that you can make a riser very easily. I kind of like it not being completely on the grid and complete, you know, it's a little bit more unexpected. The last thing I'll just show you with the keyboard is some of the sounds that it has on the SFX are very, very cool. So you could go down all the way to SFX here, choose one. I remember liking this one, Blip Krieg. We've got no sound. So I remember liking this one. The Blip Krieg. There's loads of cool SFX here. So you could put that on the drop, for example. Maybe down the other. See what else we got. It's celestial basin, caught the bottle, crackling things. It could be on the intro. Let's put that in. Let's put that in the intro. It's a bit heavy duty. You can probably see what the intent, some of the effects sound like. Okay, so just to show you all the things that we did with this instrument, with the new crackle that we put in. Crackle's too loud. Put the drums in. Anyway, there you go. This is a very, very live sounding instrument. From here on, you could get into all forms of editing. You could group instruments together. You could add modulators on them. Obviously, lots of EQ and reverb, really mix it in. But for a live instrument, if you really want to play your sounds in and for it to be very, very expressive, I mean, it is just the word. I know it's the company name. This is really going to be the keyboard for you. Now, I would say it definitely lends itself well to performance. That's for sure. And does it lend itself well to dance music? I think it can have a huge scope to play. If you're really into synth patching, you may prefer to remain with soft synths and hardware analog synths and things like that you have a bit more control over. But given that this is the beginning of something else, if you can get your head around this now and familiarize yourself with the Egan Matrix, if you're into sound design as well as performance and dance music, I think the next iteration of this is going to be something quite special as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this run through of this really wonderful instrument. There's a fuller review on Attack, which is more review based about some of the deeper dives and some of the technicalities. If there's any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.